Hello guys, once again this is the fifth video of this series. Still very excited to be able to do this. Today we're gonna continue to talk about the readability of our source code, of our code, if you will. The last time we actually made it once again a very brief introduction into readability and how important that is. I believe that sometimes most people, they just disregard that part and they just continue to learn about it, a lot of different things. And I just wanted to take a different route and sort of talk about my experience when it comes to readability of your source code. I remember back then, like a couple of months ago, when I was just first starting out to learn HTML and CSS, I would struggle to read my own code, and you could imagine what that could do to someone who just tried to read my code. So I think it's very important for us to talk about structuring your code in a manner that's going to allow you to actually speed up things a little bit and allow you to sort of come back to your code and be able to distinguish different parts of your code. I think that's going to be extremely important, and also is going to accelerate the level of your progress, and not only that, your productivity when you're actually working on some projects later on, when you sort of grasp the foundations of this HTML and also of the CSS that we're gonna be making videos on, in the next months, in the next days or months or something. Okay, so I have this sketch here with a couple of words, sort of a basic HTML, and I just wanted to demonstrate how indentation, indenting your own things and the tags within tags and elements, containers that are holding other tags, and how indenting that can be very helpful when it comes to, once again, increasing the level of readability of your code. So we have this section here. Section is actually is an actual HTML tag, so you can use that within your code. It's basically it's a semantic. It's one of the 5 most common semantic tags. Now we're going to talk about semantic tags once again in the upcoming videos. Here, just wanted to demonstrate how certain things can mix this with if you want to put things inside, or tags. Stop calling them things. If you want to put tags inside this section tag, okay? So this section tag here behaves as a container, and what it does is basically just holding other elements, okay? This is an element, but it's holding other elements. So what happened is that most of the times people would have the tendency, the proclivity to not indent the code. Now, if you're writing, if your source code is like 5, 10, or even 20 lines long, then that's okay. I mean, nobody cares about that. But even though, you still have to sort of make your code readable, and the way you do that is basically specifying, exactly where certain tags, because we're going to talk about child, parent, and the relationship between those. When we talk about also specificity, and there's a lot of stuff that we're gonna introduce. But I think here the most important thing to keep in mind is that indentation. I kind of gave you guys a clue that I struggle to pronounce this this word. Indentation. So it's very important, right? So this section tag here is actually a parent of this h1 tag and this p tag. Okay, so section tag is the parent of h1 and p tag. Why? Because h1 is inside the section tag, the h1's tag is inside the section tag, and the p tag is also inside the section tag. Now, the only way to tell this, if you're just reading a code, the only way possible to be able to tell this is just by looking at the code and being, okay, this is actually inside this, and this is basically done by indenting. Okay, if you forget the indentation, you can still notice and be able to identify that and be able to notice that, but it can be very hard, especially if you're just starting out, and especially if you're reading your own code. So the way you can do that is basically by looking at this section tag here, right? This section tag, and you try to find where it terminates. right? And then you try to follow it, and it's like it didn't terminate yet. So these tags are actually within the section tag until where it terminates. So that's just one way to look at it. But I really, really recommend, and this is actually one of the strongest things that I can't highlight it enough, I can't emphasize it enough, we have to always indent our code. Now, it doesn't really matter how much space. Usually when you hit tab on your keyboard, the tab key on your keyboard, it's going to indent 4 spaces into the tag, okay, into to the left, to the right, not to the left, to the right, okay. So it's going to indent 5 spaces. It's like you're hitting space, all right. It's going to indent 4 spaces, not 5, 4 spaces into the right. So that's the very basic explanation of readability and how strong this can be in terms of increasing your productivity when it comes to increasing the level of readability of your code and all of those things. Now, I have this notion. I know that some people don't like theory, but I think when it comes to HTML, theory is actually very important. Now, you can also practice, which is actually something that I really, really recommend, because you don't want to fall into what people call, what programmers call tutorial hell, which is basically you just watching me, watching other people, watching other developers, creating and building their own projects while you're just sitting there. I mean, it doesn't help. I mean, you're gonna grasp the concepts, the foundations, but it's not the best way to learn. Okay, I'm a strong supporter that the strong way to learn is always by doing it. Okay, we learn much more, of course, watching people and also following along. I think that would be a better strategy to actually acquire this knowledge. That's very, very important today. I don't want to make this video too long. Actually, I just wanted to sort of explain before we dive into tags and start sort of embedding things and putting things together, and then it's gonna look messy sometimes, right? If we don't indent. So I just wanted to explain indentation and readability of your source code. I think this is actually extremely, extremely important nowadays, especially because a lot of people are actually starting to program, which means we have more programmers, more web developers or software engineers, software developers, more than ever. So, and these numbers actually continue to grow, to increase. So that just means, more people are actually getting into this industry, and we have to be able to find a way to communicate. And if our communication is based on the code, if the code is not clean, if the code is messy, then the communication is put in jeopardy, right? And if the communication is put in jeopardy, I think you know what that can lead to, So this is actually something that I wanted to talk about. Emphasizing this is extremely important. Indenting your code, always making sure that the parents tags, child tags, children tags are indented, in relation to their parent. Okay, very, very important. Now we're gonna talk with more details about parents and other stuff in the upcoming videos when we start actually using, because there's like many tags, in the HTML. So we're gonna use those. We're gonna start outputting something on the page and seeing how those things interact with each other and stuff like that. So it's gonna be extremely important. And once again, I can't emphasize this enough. Practice just typing this skeleton. Okay, just knowing it by heart. I think it's gonna help. Nowadays we have text editors that do this for they do this for us. Like, we don't have to type everything, but I think it's important for you to at least understand, have the basic. You don't have to know everything within this our source code, like the HTML skeleton. Like, you don't have to know everything, but at least understand, okay, in order for me to do this, I need that. In order for me to write something, I need a body tag, and the body tag, the body tag has to be inside an HTML tag. And we also need something called the head tag, and within this head tag we have to have the meta tags, which are basically going to be telling the browser, hey, we're going to output our information like this. We want the viewport to be dependent upon the device width. We want the description of website to be, hey, this is my first website, and all of that. And also we want to tell the browser that we're actually using HTML version 5. That's it. Now, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video when we're actually going to start not programming, but actually using some real badass HTML tags to do some cool stuff. See you there. Bye. Keep coding.